and how to manipulate them, how to use them. And so here we are at the Friedberg Jewish Manuscript Society website. And you'll see that there are a number of different collections to choose from. There's the Yemenite manuscripts, Talmud manuscripts. I want to highlight in particular the Judeo-Arabic corpus, which is something that I use all the time. It's an extensive library of Judeo-Arabic texts, which is all completely searchable. You can just type in a word and find every time it's been used, in, at least in any published Judeo-Arabic document, which is, to call it useful, I think is an understatement. I often find it indispensable. But even I, who am so enamored of the Judeo-Arabic corpus, will admit that the indisputable jewel in the crown of the Friedberg Jewish Manuscript Society is the Friedberg Genizah project, and that's what I will be talking about today. So here it is at the top here. You can see it's available in Hebrew or English. For the purposes of this presentation, I'll choose English, but if you prefer Hebrew, it works just as well. So, okay, and here we are at the website. And we'll just cancel this for now. Now, I remember the first time that I actually came to this website, when I heard about the Friedberg Genizah project, and I was all excited to see it, and I came to this website, and it was a little intimidating, because there's a lot going on, different colors, different things to click on. So I just want to simplify things by directing your attention specifically to this line, where it says select, search, shelf mark, FGP number, and workspace. That's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm not going to be talking about the whole line. But I'll just explain how it is that I can go from this website to seeing hundreds and thousands of manuscripts. I'm ashamed to admit, but believe it or not, I don't actually personally own any Genizah fragments. And yet I can sit at my dining room table and get access to, as I said, hundreds and thousands of manuscripts, and it really is really wonderful. Okay, so let's look at this line here. These two functions, where it says shelf mark and then it has a space, and FGP number when it has a space, those are useful. For instance, if you are reading Mediterranean Society or something, and Goitein mentions a document that he saw, and he cites the shelf mark where it can be found, you can type that in and get immediate access to that shelf mark. So that helps if you know exactly what you want to look at. You know the shelf mark that you want to see. This FGP number is this website also assigns specific numbers, so you don't have to type in the whole complicated shelf mark. If you know the FGP number of whatever document you're looking at, you can type that in and get to it that way. But let's say you don't know exactly which document you want to see. Let's say you don't have a specific shelf mark. I'll just give myself as an example. My research now is focusing on Sefer Mitzvot of Maimonides, and specifically the introduction. So if I wanted to look at manuscripts of the introduction to Maimonides Sefer Mitzvot, I don't know where to look. I don't know the exact shelf mark where I can find that, but not to worry, because the Friedberg Genizah project has tools for that too, and so that's where I'll start. If you go to select, we'll skip select by collection for now, we'll go to select by domain. And here we see that this website has, well, not the website itself, people who worked on the website, have sorted the whole Genizah into subjects, into easily navigable subjects that we can just look through. So for instance, if your research is in text of the Bible, you can find whatever the Genizah has to offer about biblical text, Arabic tafsir, haftarot, parshanut, rabbinic literature. Of course, the Genizah is not only what we might call intellectual high culture. So if we scroll down, we see things like medicine. Scroll down farther, we see contracts, shopping lists. If your research is in medieval shopping lists, you can find out whatever the Genizah has to offer just by clicking on that. But for me, again, I mentioned that my research is on Maimonides Sefer Mitzvot. So if I want to look at manuscripts of Sefer Mitzvot, I can find where it says Sifrei Mitzvot here. It's under halachic literature. So I click on Sifrei Mitzvot, and of course, Maimonides was not the only one to write a Sefer Mitzvot. So this website also allows me to pick, I don't want to see everything that that was ever written on the subject of Sefer Mitzvot. I only want to see Maimonides. If you look at the top here, you can find it says Book of Precepts, Maimonides, Hebrew. That's manuscripts of medieval Hebrew translations of Sefer Mitzvot. What I want to look at is the Judeo-Arabic. So I go down and I see here it says Kitab HaShari'ah of Rambam. And if I can have the audacity to quibble with this website a bit, I'm not sure that Maimonides' work was ever referred to as Kitab HaShari'ah. Chayfetz Ben Yatzliach certainly was. That's the one right above here. But I don't know that Maimonides was. But anyway, we know what they mean. The Kitab HaShari'ah is Rambam's what we're calling Sefer HaMitzvot. So I can click on that, hit View, and I see this list of shelf marks here, and it tells me there are 108 shelf marks. So I can go through all 108. Or if I only want to see, I want to go immediately to the manuscripts that deal with the introduction to Sefer Mitzvot. That's what I'm working on. I don't need to see manuscripts dealing with all the other, with the body of the text or particular mitzvot. I just want the introduction. This website allows me to do that through the Identifications tab here. And what I'll do is select all, hit Identifications right here on the side. We'll go through some of these other options on the side there, but for now, let's look at Identifications. So this list at the top here is just a mishmash list of the shelf marks. You can ignore that. But what the interesting part is down here, you see our same list of shelf marks that we saw before. And here they've been identified, either by catalog information that's been added to the Friedberg Genizah project, or by actual people working for the Friedberg Genizah project. These have been, so we see that this shelf mark is mitzvah lo ta'aseh kuf zayin to kuf yud gimel, so I'm not interested in that. This one is mitzvah aseh samach tet to ayin bet, again not interested in that. But then I see here, this has been identified as hakdama or muqaddimah. So what I can do is write down, this is the shelf mark I want to see from Cambridge University Libraries, Taylor Schechter, TS AR18-2, and it's page 154, so I would write that down, which I've already done, so you don't need to watch me writing that down. Although in the time that it took me to say you don't need to watch me, I could have just written. I don't know that I'm actually saving time here. And then, now that I know the shelf mark that I want to look at, there are various ways of getting at it. I'll just go back the way I came for now. Select by domain, I'll do the same thing I did. This is just repetition is nice when you're learning how to do something. So then I go down to Sifrei Mitzvot. The Talmud in, I think, Chagiga maybe, says that one who reviews material 100 times can't even be compared to someone who reviews it 101 times, but we'll just do this twice. So we go to Kitab HaShari'ah. This should be familiar, as I just did it. And here we are. And now, this list of shelf marks, now I know which one I want to look at, and it's this one right here, TSAR18-2, 154. So there are, now that I've selected that, there are a number of different options that I have for what I can do with it. But I think the most exciting one, and the one that I want to go to now, is I can actually see that. I can see the manuscript. So I click on Images. Wait for it to load. As long as it takes to load, it's still shorter than a trip to Cambridge. It's worth it for me.
Isn't it easier to just copy paste and put it on shelf mark?
You could do that, and I'll talk about different ways. I think there's even an easier way if you want to.
Oh.
But right now I just want to go through some of the different features. But yeah, you could. I'll explain how to use that shelf mark search. You need Java on your computer, by the way.
Yes, you need Java and a very fast connection, because if you have only 2 or 5 mega, it's it works slowly.
And you need special permission to go into this site?
Yes, you have to ask to sign in and
Anyone can just sign in?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't mention that.
It's
Before I
important to
started,
say.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's important.
before I started, I had already logged in.
Yeah, that's
It's very
Yeah.
easy to get a registration.
It's for free.
Registration
Very
is
easy.
both extremely easy and extremely free, so there's no reason not to. And it took me maybe 45 seconds to register and get a login. So here we have the document. And here are tools at the top that allow us to manipulate it in different ways. I'll get to that. You see on the side here, it's one page. It's recto and verso. This is the recto side. If you click this, you'll see the verso side. What I find when I want to look at a document, I find instead of just immediately from here zooming in, just personally, and people have different ways of doing this, I find it's easier to use this tool up here to open it in a new window. Okay. So there we have it. This is our document, and the handwriting is pretty good, but nonetheless it still helps to zoom in, and so you can use these tools up here to zoom. So you can zoom in this way, or alternatively you can use this tool, which allows you to highlight whatever you want to see. So if we highlight, say, this paragraph, I want to look at that paragraph in particular, we can highlight it pretty far, and actually it's too far probably because the screen is small. Yeah, and of course, as we know from looking at Genizah documents, often there will be things written in different directions, scribal corrections or additions going in all sorts of different directions, circular around the page. Some people may have written over it in different directions, so it's easy to see those if you just, this one doesn't have it, this one's pretty clean, but you can rotate it however you want, clockwise, counterclockwise, you can turn it over completely if you want. You can really manipulate this image in a lot of different ways, and I would just encourage you, if you haven't used this before, the first document that you want to look at, just play around with these tools. They're useful, they're easy to use, and you'll quickly see how you want to use it. While this is up here, we might as well talk about this manuscript. It would be a shame to dismiss it without discussing it at all. And you can see that the identification on the website was correct. This is indeed from the introduction to Sefer HaMitzvot, and specifically this is the part where Maimonides is reminiscing about his writing Mishneh Torah. He's talking about his options for languages. What language should he write Mishneh Torah in? And if you see up here, it says, وَكَذَلِكَ رَأَيْتُ بَنَأُلَفُهُ بِلِسَانِ كُتُبَ التَّنزِيلِ. Therefore, I decided to write it in the language of Kutub Tanzil, Tanakh, the books of Revelation. And if you're familiar with Sefer HaMitzvot or with any other manuscript of Sefer HaMitzvot, you'll immediately spot the scribal error here, because in fact, Maimonides says that I did not decide to write it in the language of Tanakh. I did not want to write it in the language of Tanakh. This scribe forgot to put a la after the be'an. Okay, it's a scribal error that happens all the time. We shouldn't. It's tough being a scribe. We shouldn't judge. Nobody's perfect. But I want to draw your attention also to some other interesting feature. Interesting might be amusing. I think might be a better word. The next option that Maimonides offers is the language of the Talmud, the Luchat Talmud, and he says that he doesn't want to write it in that language either, because in Aramaic, because nobody really understands it today, and he says that it's very difficult to understand. And in all other manuscripts that I've seen, and in printed editions of Sefer HaMitzvot, you'll find that he writes that nobody understands it ala ahad, except for a few people. Here, the scribe dropped the aleph from the beginning of ala and dropped the aleph from the middle of ahad to make it la. So instead of saying that nobody understands it except for a few people, now we see that nobody understands it, not even one person. And just to make it even worse, Maimonides goes on to say, and there are many words in the Talmud that are difficult to understand, even for people, and in all manuscripts it says, all people who are mubarazin fil Talmud, who are distinguished in their Talmud study, or expert at Talmud. Here you see the scribe drop the zayin and put in a chet instead, and so it's al-mubarachin fil Talmud, which I guess could mean something like those who are tormented or afflicted by the Talmud, instead of those who are expert at it, which aren't mutually exclusive. You could be an expert in something and still tormented by that subject. I don't mean to imply that, but it certainly is different. So as dire and pessimistic as Maimonides' writing about the state of Talmud study in his time is, this scribe makes it even worse. Just thought I'd point that out. Okay. So let's get rid of this image here, and let's talk about different ways. We'll still use this document, but different ways to access it. So now that I know the shelf mark, either because I've looked it up in the way I did through using the identifications, or I found a reference to it in an article or a book or something, there are different ways to get to it. So here's one. You can search by collection. I'll just mention, you can also select by author, but for my purposes that's not so useful because there are thousands and thousands of ones by Maimonides, and so I just find it easier to select in different ways. But if you're working on someone who doesn't appear so much in Genizah, then select by author. You can see everything that, any document, any manuscript of their work. Okay, so let's go to select by collection. And I've written down, this is the Cambridge University Library here. It's in Taylor Schachter AR 18.2. And here we have our list of shelf marks. So I wanted page 154 in particular, so I'll scroll down to that. And this again, if I know exactly the reference, I can go right to it, select that, and then I have all these options available to me. I can look at it again, I can click on images, or identifications, although it's already been identified. And what I want to show now is another feature of the Friedberg Genizah project, which is in this bibliography tab. Sure why it started over. Okay, I guess we can start again. Select back again, Chazara, review is important. Cambridge University Library, Taylor Schachter, 18.2. Okay, so here's the bibliography tab. So this allows me to see if this particular manuscript has ever been cited by anyone or ever been discussed by anyone. Unlike some people in this room, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of everything that's ever been written about any Genizah document. And so this is very helpful. And it tells me that actually this manuscript has been cited twice in these publications, and it gives the year. And I'll just call your attention to this part here, this DTSI, for discussion, transcription, translation, image. If any of these citations included an actual discussion of this manuscript, or a transcription, or translation, or an image of it, it would have a check mark here, or some notification letting you know that that's what happened. None of these are checked, and indeed, if you go to these publications, you'll see that they're essentially catalogs, just saying that Cambridge University Library has a manuscript of Sefer Mitzvot, and it is this shelf mark, and that's all it says about it. But if it's possible that if I was interested in a certain manuscript, this would tell me if anybody has ever discussed it or cited it. Okay, so that's the bibliography feature, which It's very useful. I just want to go through a couple other things. So here's, you can, I'm going to skip the search tab. I'll let Amir handle that. But for the shelf mark, you're right, I could just type it in here. Don't add the Cambridge University Library part, then I won't understand what you mean. Just type it in. So let's hit check.
Do you know why these lists aren't hot linked? Why you have to go through the, why you have to
I don't
copy and cut
right.
and paste?
Yeah, that would be a good feature. So I can type it in, and there I have it. There I have the same manuscript, the same document that I can then apply any of these features to. So we've seen the images, we've seen identifications, we've seen bibliography. The last one I want to talk about is this quick view. That allows you, if you don't want to wait, I guess, for all the features of the main image viewer to pop up, you just want to look at this, quickly see what kind of state this manuscript is in. You can just, it'll pop up here, and it has some zoom features. You can zoom with this bar here. But if you really want to look at it, I would suggest the real image viewer. But one feature that this quick view does have, which is useful, is right here. You see this little, right here, this little clipboard with a plus sign on it. This adds the document to my workspace. So I'll just do that. And now the clipboard has a check now that it's been added to my workspace. And what that does, now you see this workspace feature says active 1. What that does is, if I want to collect a bunch of different manuscripts that I want to work on all at once, I can just go through, find them, add them to my workspace. I can go to my workspace. And here, the active workspace, it has, in my case, only one, but you could do a lot more manuscripts, and just it collects them all for you. And if you want to leave and come back to this at some other point, you can save it. Like save active workspace. It'll make me make a folder for it, so I'll call it Maimonides. Save that. And now my workspace includes this folder, which again, it only has one manuscript in it, but you can have a lot of them. And this way I can log out, which I'm about to do, and leave, and I can come back to it, and this shelf mark, this manuscript, will be waiting for me when I come back. So that's the workspace feature. So I've gone through, again, I skipped the search feature that I think Amir is talking about. There are a lot of different features that I haven't talked about, I haven't even touched on. So I'll let Amir do that, but I really encourage you, if you are at all interested in any type of Genizah work, this is essential. I've really just scratched the surface, but Hafofba de Kulaba, it really is quite a remarkable website. Do you want me to log in?
Yes, log out. I'll get into my
So,
Yeah.
is the work finished? Like, is it at all of the Genizah fragments in the world?
There are people here who can answer that better than I can. My understanding is that Russian libraries...
Most of it is on, about 95 or more %. The Russian libraries are still ongoing. It's not only small part is on.